Hello everyone, welcome to the Teach Middle East Teaching and Learning Conference. My name is Emma Shanahan. I am principal at Aspen Heights British School in Abu Dhabi, and I've been working and leading schools in the Middle East for almost 15 years. A little bit about Aspen Heights. It was a brand new school in 2017, and we aimed to put well-being at the centre of all of our decision making and the well-being of our entire community. Because if children are safe and secure and happy, they're going to learn more. So the purpose of this conference is to support you in developing a whole school approach to well-being. We're going to explore what a well-being is and what it's not, and how colleagues working in schools, how all colleagues working in schools can contribute to developing whole school culture. I will pause at times for you to make notes and write things down and just have some reflection time. And also, if you want to ask any questions, you can put them in the Q&A box, and I'll be live at the time as well, and I can answer any questions you might have. So thank you very much for joining me. I do hope that this is a useful session and sharing session for everybody. So let's have a look at some of these newspaper headlines, and it will explore why we are in a wellbeing crisis right now. And this is a recent 2022 headline in the National, in the UAE. Our international award that we received for our mental health and wellbeing approaches. UAE schools prioritise mental health as pandemic takes a toll. It's from 2019. This is from a government initiative, 250 new schools within the World Schools Network. That was in MOE schools. And UAE school mental health programs gain strength to shake off pandemic stress. So I think personally, as educators, we all know the impact that the pandemic has had on everybody's well-being and mental health, that as schools we are in a prime position to act on it and support the communities. So your task now, I'm going to put the timer on. I won't put annoying music on, but I'll put the timer on. So you've got some time. You've got a couple of minutes to just have a look on your search engine in your region. So I'm not sure what some of you might be not in the UAE. Just have a Google search about schools and well-being. You look at the UK press as well, and have a look at the sort of state of well-being in your area and what other schools are doing. So we have 2 minutes. So I hope you found some interesting articles there from your region. First of all, let's have a little look at what well-being is and what it's not. So well-being is a complex combination of a person's physical, mental, emotional, and social health factors. Well-being is strongly linked to happiness and life satisfaction. In short, well-being could be described about how you feel about yourself and your life. And I'd just like to sort of draw the distinction between well-being, which is how you feel, and the factors that affect well-being. So often people confuse well-being with some of the factors that affect well-being. For instance, going to a yoga class. Everyone thinks, oh, go to a yoga class, that will enhance my well-being, and my well-being will be good because I'm going to a yoga class. You could still feel really dissatisfied and lost, even though you're still going through the motions of doing all the right things in terms of supporting your well-being. So whilst going to a yoga class, connecting with friends, keeping physically fit, eating well, sleeping well, are all really good components to support well-being, they're not well-being themselves. So just have a little think about that. So there are three aspects to an individual's well-being. There's a physical well-being, which I think is probably the most easy to understand. You know, if you're physically well, if you're healthy and strong. Somebody's mental well-being and their social and emotional well-being. And I think somebody's mental well-being and social and emotional well-being are quite linked. So social and emotional well-being in how you feel in your community and your role in your community and how accepted you are. So first of all, I'd like you to take your pencil and pen and notepad, your phone, whatever you want to write this on, and just for a minute, just think about who is your community as school practitioners, as people in our school community. Who is your community? Me. Thank you for thinking about that. So we consider our community to be, obviously, first and foremost, all of our children enrolled in our school, all of our staff, not just our teaching staff, our teaching assistants, our administrative staff, our security team, our ancillary staff, our transportation staff, all of the staff in our school, and our families. So there are three different aspects to well-being: physical, mental, and social and emotional, and three different members or groups in our community: children, staff, and families. So developing a whole school approach to meeting the needs of all of these groups' well-being is no mean feat, but something that we can, with sensitivity and planning, make some really good progress with. I've put this in a little cycle here because I feel that the well-being of all of these groups are interdependent and mutually dependent. I'd like you to have a little task now, 2 minutes. Have a think how the well-being of these groups are interdependent, and maybe think of an example where the sort of negative well-being of a member of staff impacted on families or children, or the negative well-being of children impacted on families and staff, and vice versa. So just have a reflection from your own setting. You might recall certain families or certain children or a certain member of staff or colleagues that you've worked with, and have a think about how that's interdependent. 2 minutes. You can just stop there. So yeah, I'm sure you've been able to think about, from your own experiences of, possibly families, or particular family whose one member of a parent has been struggling with either their mental well-being that's negatively impacted on staff and children, and all of them are interrelated, and so I hope this illustrates why it's critical that we look at all of these different groups, because looking at one in isolation, although children obviously are first and foremost, the other groups are equally important because they have such a direct impact on the well-being of children, and therefore the children's learning. That's why we come to school. Okay, another task now. So let's think positively. So if a member of our community, it could be a child, could be a parent, or could be a member of your staff, has positive well-being in each of these areas, what does this look like? What will they do? And how will they behave? And I ask you to do this because by looking at what we're aiming for, we can then plan out the environment that needs to facilitate this. So 2 minutes. Take children, staff, and families. And how would they demonstrate positive well-being in all of these areas? Just jot it down. 30 seconds left. Okay, let's have a look at this problem. Previously, I did a similar task with a group, and this is what they came up with. So, physical well-being, groups can demonstrate that by eating healthy, being well presented, being well cared for, being fit and healthy to carry out day-to-day tasks, regular exercise, sufficient sleep. Somebody's positive mental well-being, being positive, able to manage stress, positive self-image, focus without anxiety or worry, adaptable, managing workload, resilience when overcoming setbacks or change, and social and emotional well-being. It's friends, able to regulate emotions, have verbal ability to communicate their emotions, building connections, happy in their work, as friends, and adaptability to new settings. So you can see how that relates to all of our community, children, staff, and families. Okay, now I'd like you to, again, a little think about what you can do as a school leader or a practitioner to influence the physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being of your entire community. Take one group, take one aspect, and just have a think about what you could do next week when you return to school to positively impact. 2 minutes. It's under a minute. Okay. So some of you might have thought about introducing a healthy eating policy or lunchbox checking or rewards for healthy lunchbox. Some of you might have thought about putting on yoga classes for your teachers or families, or having some sort of support group or chat, open parent group where they can talk about their their challenges. Now, all of those would be a wonderful initiatives, but I've crossed them out because without one thing, all of those I propose, my opinion is that these are sort of add-ons and bolt-ons and maybe sort of putting a bit of a sticking plaster over something. And without an ethos of sort of engagement with your community, all of these initiatives that are wonderful initiatives aren't going to have the impact that they could do if the ethos of open, approachable, and community engagement is really well established. So community members, all members of the community, that's children, staff and families, need to feel heard. They need to feel important. They need to feel valued, appreciated and connected. All of them, all of them. And without that, my proposal, my experience is that a yoga class, a healthy eating initiative is not going to have the positive impact it could do if the ethos of supportive engagement and a collaborative community is established. So I've jotted down a few ideas of what that would look like, what a positive community ethos, a positive ethos that's focused on well-being, what it would look like. Have all of your different groups, children, staff and families, got someone to speak to? Do they feel that their ideas are acted upon at times? Do they feel involved in decision making? Have they got the opportunity to be involved in decision making? Has someone said thank you to them? Do they feel part of a group? So I'd like you to take a couple of minutes now to just reflect on the ethos of your setting. That might be a year group, it might be a whole school, your class, and reflect on those groups. How connected do they feel? A couple of minutes. When you're reflecting, there might be a group or a practice that springs to mind of something, of the group whose needs aren't being met. Okay, as we get on to the last few seconds of this, just think what you can do with with one of your groups tomorrow, or when you go back into school, that will enable them to feel more heard, more important, more valued, appreciated, and connected. Because I suppose without an ethos of well-being, the factors that affect well-being won't have a significant impact as they could do. So have a think what you could do. How could you engage and connect your families more, your staff, or your children? Okay, so now we've looked at what well-being is, who our community is, looked at the distinction between well-being, factors that affect well-being, and the underlying ethos that I believe an organisation needs to present and facilitate in order for all of these well-being aspects to have as big an impact as possible. But what should a well-being policy contain? So first of all, see most policies, a vision to guide practice, and that should be devised collaboratively with all of your community, different aspects of your community, children, staff and families, and that guides everything, and that should be a touchstone that you go back to reflect on your practice and see how it can be improved. And then some guidelines for processes that you'll adopt for all of your community to ensure their physical, mental and social and emotional needs are met. So it could be a massive policy. So policies in my school, we call best practice guides because we like them to be quite dynamic, flexible documents that are constantly updated to reflect current practice, because current practice changes because the needs of our community change. So it's very much a working document. It's not a massive tome that nobody ever reads. It's a sort of on the ground, what you will see in the school on a daily basis. So I've given a task here, but I've actually put some of the suggestions up. Policy for children's wellbeing processes. So these are just some of the ideas that I've thought about that I might put in my policy. Pastoral processes, health and safety, safeguarding, class-informed tutors. They're a really important part of ensuring children's wellbeing. Relationship policy, some might call it behaviour policy, engendering a sense of belonging. So all of the practices that class teachers and form teachers do to ensure a student, child feels that they belong in the school, and they're part of the community and they're important. All of those things are really important aspects to supporting child's well-being. Learning support, all parts of well-being, because that enables children to be successful and develop a positive self-image. Family engagement, family involvement supports positive well-being for children, because if children feel that their families know and believe that their school life is important, then they will develop a more positive self-image, because they know that what they're doing every day at school is really important. Students having a voice, student voice, all of the school council work, the prefect system, and different aspects of student leadership that you have in place in your school, that all contributes to an ethos to children's wellbeing in school. Routines and expectations that support the relationship policy, the behaviour policy, so that everybody has a collective and collaborative feel of this is what we do here. The breadth of the curriculum to enable all children to have aspects of their school day where they shine and they're really successful. Extracurricular activities for the same reason. PSHE, and then I put the last one, I put this tracking. So tracking students' wellbeing. There are a number, let's put a couple here, a number of ways that you can track and monitor and dig a bit deeper into student wellbeing. There's the GL Pass assessments, any school device surveys that you might do on Google Forms or SurveyMonkey or something like that. And at my school, and I'm going to share this with you, we've put into our policy into our assessment policy, that all staff assess students on the Leuven scales. Now, we chose those because not only are they free, but also we felt it important that staff know that well-being is something they need to be observing, they need to be engaging with, and they need to be responsible for supporting with the children. So let me show you a little bit about the Leuven scales. So Leuven scales help adults interacting with children and young people to understand how focused and comfortable they are in an education setting. It's predominantly used in earlier settings, but can be used throughout the schools we do. So students are assessed on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being low and 5 being high, in 2 areas, well-being and involvement. And there are descriptors for each that I'll share with you now. High levels of involvement coupled with high levels of well-being is the perfect environment for deep learning and development. And conversely, low involvement and low well-being are warning signs, and they trigger a change in practice for practitioners, teachers. So why would you ask colleagues to assess using the Leuven's rubric? You know, as we've seen from the press articles at the beginning of the presentation, we all know the impact of COVID and lockdown and isolation on students' well-being, and it's a priority for us. To identify children who might have slipped through the net, they're sort of biddable and smile and wave, but actually they're not really truly engaged and realising their full potential. To look at any differences across subjects in secondary, and also to enable teaching assistants and teachers to work collaboratively together, because they maybe have different perceptions that's important to combine. So well-being, this is the rubric for well-being on the Leuven scale. So well-being is the beautiful stage in which children can be when they feel okay. They feel at ease, they radiate, they're open to anything that comes in. So on the extremely low, they're having a difficult time, they don't feel happy, they're primarily quite anxious or tense. Contact with the environment is difficult, might attack others. This has been written in quite an early years way, but they're not at ease. I think we can all think of students both across all areas of the school, all phases of the school, that may be experiencing that. And 5, they're like fish in water, having fun, laughing, enjoying what the environment has to offer, positively affecting the group dynamic. Any anger, unhappiness, or fear quickly subsides, and mostly they're enjoying life to the full. So, assessing students on the scale of 1 to 5 here is really interesting. And then combining them with their involvement. Involvement is about concentration, motivation, and focus. So, extremely low, don't engage, they might wander about absent-mindedly, activities are short-lived and purposeless, easily distracted. And the 5, extremely high, regularly absorbed, intensely engaged in their activities, showing signs of concentration, persistence, and energy. So again, we can all, I'm sure, recall students in all phases of the school that would demonstrate those involvement characteristics. So at Aspen, after staff evaluate students against wellbeing and involvement, we identify the children that are really low, anyone 1 and 2, but also keep an eye on the 3s as well in our pupil progress. And then we have planned actions. So we use this site here, PBIS World. I'll share it with you now. So there are lots of different behaviours you might have identified, maybe anxiety. Just gives you a little check-in with the behaviour and any physical symptoms they might have. And then there's suggested interventions. Now these we plan for. Often there's a group of them, and they're all adopted by the teachers to try and support that child. I hope that's useful. So, as we looked deeply at children and what aspects of school practice support the well-being of children, and then the tracking of children's well-being. Now, staff, just have a think. What aspects of school practice support the well-being of staff? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about that. Just stop there. So you might put something about HR processes, making sure that best medical insurance, accommodation policy, making sure that their environment that they're going home to is suitable and safe. Having a social committee for social engagement, so in range of social activities, teams that you have, so having a support network, year group phase and department leaders to be focused on the well-being and mental health and supporting their team, collaborative planning and training, mental health training for all. Those are just some ideas that I jotted down, but I would ask you to reflect back to this ethos. If you have a social committee and arrange a staff night out, that's not going to positively impact on staff well-being unless they feel heard, important, valued, appreciated, connected in the setting. So it's important that that ethos, particularly for staff, in my experience, is really well established and authentic, because I feel that if well-being factors that affect well-being are added to an environment where this ethos isn't established, it can be counterproductive. Okay, and finally, families. What aspects of school practice support the well-being of families? Just have a couple of minutes to have a reflection on that. 30 seconds. So you might have put something about, having regular contact with staff, because then they feel heard and listened to. Communication, clear communication, accurate communication from school, so they're not filling the vacuum or the void of what ifs. Family workshops about supporting their child, so you're working in partnership. School counsellor workshops and communication, so in specific aspects of student mental health and parenting, because parenting is the hardest job ever. Form tutor and class contact, and safeguarding processes. So thank you very much for attending today. I hope you found it useful. I'm really happy to answer any questions that come up in the Q&A box, or if you'd like to email me about anything I've discussed. I'm really happy to hear from you. So my email address is principal@ahbs.ae, and thank you for attending the Teach Middle East conference on teaching and learning at the beginning of this new academic year. Hope you'll have a wonderful start to your school terms. Thank you.